Good morning, it's Karen, and here's some autumnal recommendations. So, the things that I absolutely love reading in the autumn season, we are coming off of a very warm summer. We are easing into the crispness of fall. And I love to read very transitional books. I like to read books that sometimes just look like they belong in the fall. I love ones that have like an edge of darkness to them. So here are 10 recommendations that you might find interesting. I've decided to organize these books from cozy and warm and heartwarming to the most unsettling. The first one I'm going to start with is The Last Quintista. This is a young adult science fiction about a girl whose family gets chosen to go on one of the last ships, an ark, if you will, leaving Earth as it's about to explode. They are going to find a new planet and create a new society, basically. She's put into a slumber in which she gets taught all sorts of things while she's asleep. And she chooses, I think it's biology and storytelling. And I think a Quintista is a storyteller. So she becomes a bearer of humanity's stories. And then, of course, things go wrong. This is a bittersweet kind of a book. There are some tragedies, and it's all about creating a home while acknowledging the home that you've lost. This is a sad book, but it is also very hopeful. The second book I'd like to recommend is the Emily Wilde series. These have been so much fun. There is I think it's a trilogy. I have read all three books at this point, and I quite enjoy them. This is following Emily Wilde, a lady scientist, and she is studying the world of fairies, which includes folklore, but also actual fairies and interacting with little pixies and brownies and sprites. And she ends up meeting a prince, and they have a bit of a romance, and it's kind of lovely. This one's quite interesting. The first one is actually set in the wintertime in a very northern Nordic town, and yet it didn't feel as cold. You could read this one in the winter time, but I think because of the vibes of this being a cozy fantasy, I find this is a great transition book to bring you from the warmth into the cold weather. Speaking of cozy and lady scientists, I have for you Veronica Speedwell. There are 9 books in this series. I'm currently on book 8, and these are just so much fun. This is following Veronica, who is a lady scientist, but instead of studying fairies, she studies butterflies. I'm going to put the title here, Lepidologist, I think is what it is. And she ends up getting targeted, and she needs to be secreted away to this by her uncle, to this man whom he trusts and thinks to be a good protector and hider for her. And his name is Stoker, and he is famous, well known for being a taxidermist. So the both of them get on quite splendidly, and you can only imagine what happens between the two of them throughout the series. But each book contains a different sort of theme and a different mystery. So the first one, we're kind of figuring out who's after her and why they're after her. And then it leads into, like, there's one following sort of Egyptology. There's one that has the feeling of Rebecca and Cornwall and ghostly tales. There's one following dinosaur fossils. So they have sort of a loose theme, each of them, and a loose mystery, and they're lovely to read on their own. And this is definitely a way to cozy up with a warm cup of whatever you love and a cozy blanket, and they are just so much fun. The next one is a fantasy mystery. So we're coming out of the mysteries into fantasy mystery now, and this is called The Tainted Cup. This is one that I read last year and adored, and there's a sequel that I've got on my list right now, A Drop of Corruption, and I'm hoping that it gives the same cool vibes. Now this one I would say is less cozy. It is following a Watson kind of character and a Sherlock type of character. They are a duo and they are trying to solve this mystery of a murdered nobleman. The nobleman has been murdered in a very gruesome way. It is one heck of a way to open a book. I do not want to spoil it, but man, I have never read anything like this. Let's just say there are plants involved. Very fast growing plants that murdered. It ends up evolving into a bit more of a big conspiracy. This world is really cool. It is very Asian inspired. It reminds me a lot of the outer world reminds me a lot of Attack on Titan because there are titans attacking the world. But that is like a side story, which makes it that much more interesting of a world. I quite enjoy following these two characters as they solve this mystery together, and I can't wait to see what mystery they're going to solve in book 2. For a cover that reminds me of autumn every single time is A Conspiracy of Truths. Now I have to tilt this one. I don't know if you can get the full effect. It is gilded, it is beautiful, and it has the most amazing title, A Conspiracy of Truths. I picked this one up. Yeah, this was a cover buy. 100%. And then the story blew me away. This is sort of a courtroom drama. The main character, this gentleman, his name is Chant. He's a storyteller and he's on trial for something. We're kind of not sure exactly, but it's slowly revealed. And his apprentice is trying to figure out exactly how to free Chant. And this is a fascinating world just in terms of policy and the lies that people make up to get out of policies and laws and bending the rules. And at some point, you don't know who's telling the truth anymore. And this is so twisty turny. There is an element of speaking directly to the reader, and this can be jarring for some people, but I find it that much more immersive because then you feel like you're let in on the secrets. I absolutely adore this one. I still think about this one. This one is going to get a reread very soon, maybe next year, but I highly recommend this one. And then the sequel, A Choir of Lies, is just as fantastic and just as surprising. And I think this is one that people just don't talk about. So check this one out if you're into twisty, turny lies, deception, and truths revealed. One that I read this year that blew me away was Once Was Willem. This is a fantasy medieval horror. This was such a blend and so incredible. And the reason why I think this one fits so well in the autumnal months is because it reminded me a lot of Frankenstein. The main character gets resurrected by a sorcerer and he grapples with what it means to be human and being rejected by his family, then creating his own family. So you have a found family element, a what does it mean to be human element, and the thing that I liked about this one compared to Frankenstein, it was a lot less whiny. He just got on with it and he just fixed what he needed fixed. The foil to Willem's character is the sorcerer, and the sorcerer makes a series of terrible decisions where he just forgets what humanity is like and uses humans in terrible ways. And Willem has to kind of fight the sorcerer. This reminded me a lot of T.H. White, that vibe of medieval history. It feels like it's set in the Middle Ages, which is fantastic. There are so many folklore elements mixed with Christian elements, mixed with, like, there's angels and demons and old world creatures that come around. Like, it's just absolutely incredible. This is a slower pace one, so I found for the first little bit it took me a tiny bit to get into, but then once it was going, I was on the ride and I absolutely adored it. So if you're looking for something to settle into and to be creeped out and blown away, this one is one for you. I'm going to recommend it time and time again. Vita Nostra is a dark academia, and by dark, I mean dark metaphysical academia. Whenever I read a dark academic book, this is kind of what I want. I want the brain bendy, I don't know what I'm reading. I've read it twice. I still don't know what I'm reading. And yet I'm so connected to this world. This is following Sasha, and she has been recruited in a very unusual way to this Institute of Technologies where she is learning, like basic stuff like math and PE. And then all of a sudden there's these courses where she's having to read these babble passages and she has to memorize them and they make no sense. And then eventually she's trying to manipulate the mental world and the metaphysical. Metaphysical means concepts that have no physical reality but are still present. So it would be like truth, exploring truth but manifesting it physically, or love. What is love? These are really cool concepts and it just gets so brain bendy and I absolutely love it. It gets darker and twistier and there is a bit of descent into madness and I love it and I adore it every single time. We are getting into the very unsettling things now. I have Ray Bradbury's October Country. Now, not only does this one have the best title to be reading, and yes, I did read this in October, this is full of short stories. So if you're more of a dip in, dip out of things type of person, this is definitely one to do so. Ray Bradbury has this way of painting imagery with underlying ominous darkness to it. He's got some stories in here about mummies. He's got stories in here about a possessed baby, which was really unnerving. And then there's some that are just so atmospheric. They really do feel like October, which is wild. This is one that I would recommend to almost anybody. This is for all different types of readers. And these do get quite dark, and I love them so much. I love reading Ray Bradbury at this time of year, and he's definitely one to check out if you haven't read anything by him. Some more dark academia for you. This is Catherine House. I read this one a number of years ago, and I still kind of think about it. I absolutely adore the idea of secret societies and the darker side of academia as a kind of metaphor or way of exploring how difficult university can be. I went through 5 years, that was the program, of doing my bachelor's of music. And there were some dark times and there were some light times. And you just go through it. There are trials. And I like reading academia for that reason, because I want to feel like I'm not alone in the academic struggle. Catherine House follows this woman who she gets offered this position in this post-secondary type of institution. She gets offered room and board, but she must cut off her entire family, I think for 2 years at least. And you get fed and you get you get a bed and you get all of the education with the caveat of complete isolation. And that's a fascinating thing to explore in itself. But then she starts to discover that her classmates are hiding things and spiraling. And she then comes up with a fourth year project, I think it was, that ends up kind of imploding and it just goes wild. And I love this one. And again, this is another one that I would love to reread just with fresh eyes. So this would be one, if you are into a dark academia, gothic kind of a read, this is definitely one to check out in the autumn season. And the very last book, the most unsettling one that I could think of that I've read pretty recently, and that is The Chestnut Man. This is what we would call Nordic noir. So it is a very dark type of a mystery. It is gruesome. It deals with some really heavy stuff with the detective. So this detective is kind of, I don't know if he's like on parole or he's done something a little bit unethical, but he's kind of on the edge of like not really being wanted. And he ends up taking on this wild case. And we get lots of different viewpoints. Not only do we get the detective, we get some people involved in the murders and kidnapping. We get some of the unfortunate victims, which is chilling. And we also get the murderer's point of view, and that was the hardest part to read. And I listened to this on audiobook, and I think that was a mistake. So if you want like a really unsettling book, you could read it with your eyeballs or you could listen to it and just listen to some very gruesome things. So I would recommend that one for the very dark side of getting into the winter months. Those are some autumnal recommendations. I hope you're able to find at least something in there that you might be interested in. Thank you so much for watching. My name is Karen. I'm the book Liberaut. I love exploring all different types of books. We'll see you again soon. Bye.